Hey guys, tonight we're stepping back into the foggy world of the Victorian schoolhouse, where the morning air is thick with mist and the promise of chalk dust. You trudge up a gravel path, shoes squeaking as the first bell clangs through the sleepy village. The schoolhouse looms ahead, red brick, tall windows, and a roof that's seen more rain than you've had hot dinners. You can almost smell the damp wood and hear the echo of boots on stone steps. The headmistress stands at the door, her gaze sharp enough to slice bread. And you know you probably won't survive this day without at least one stern warning. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And hey, let me know in the comments where you're listening from and what time it is right now. Now, dim the lights. Maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You step inside, the heavy door closing behind you with a thud that means business. The hallway smells of old books and something faintly medicinal. Maybe carbolic soap. Maybe just the ghosts of 1,000 nervous students. Your boots scuff the floorboards as you join the slow-moving line of children, all clutching battered satchels and trying to look invisible. The first bell is still ringing, a sound that's both a warning and a welcome, depending on how much homework you finished last night. You glance at the clock above the door, its hands frozen at a time that's definitely not now. Historians still argue whether Victorian school clocks were ever accurate or if they just existed to make you feel late. Either way, you're here, and the day is about to begin. The headmistress, Mrs. Grimble, yes, that's really her name, stands by the entrance. Her hair pulled so tight it could probably deflect arrows. She checks each student for clean hands and tidy hair, and you do your best to hide the ink stain on your thumb. She gives you a look that says, "I see everything," and you believe her. Mainstream fact: Victorian schools were strict about personal cleanliness, partly because of health concerns, but also because it was thought to build character. Quirky tidbit: some schools even had a smell test for students, which is exactly as awkward as it sounds. You shuffle into the main hall, where the walls are lined with faded maps and portraits of Queen Victoria, her expression somewhere between bored and mildly disappointed. The floor creaks under the weight of 100 nervous feet. You spot the big iron bell hanging by the door, its rope frayed from years of use. It's said that the bell was once used to signal not just the start of lessons, but also fire drills, lost dogs, and one memorable occasion, a runaway pig. Historians still debate whether that pig ever graduated. You find your place in the line, trying to remember if you're supposed to stand with your hands behind your back or at your sides. The rules change depending on the teacher's mood, and you don't want to be the first example of the day. The air is thick with anticipation and maybe a little fear. You hear whispers about who got in trouble yesterday, who brought the wrong book, and who might have a toffee hidden in their pocket. You check your own pockets, just in case. The bell finally stops, leaving a ringing silence that feels even louder. Mrs. Grimble clears her throat and the room snaps to attention. You can feel your heartbeat in your ears, or maybe that's just the echo of the bell. Either way, you're awake now and there's no turning back. You look around at your classmates, some wide-eyed, some already bored. One picking at a scab with the kind of focus that would impress any teacher if only it were applied to arithmetic. You wonder if anyone ever actually enjoys this part of the day, or if everyone is just pretending. Historians still argue whether Victorian children were genuinely more obedient or just better at hiding their boredom. The headmistress begins her morning speech, her voice echoing off the high ceiling. She reminds everyone of the rules. No talking out of turn, no running in the halls, and absolutely no chewing gum. Though you're pretty sure gum hasn't been invented yet. She lists the day's lessons, and you try to keep track, but your mind drifts to the window, where a crow is watching with what looks like professional curiosity. You're snapped back to attention by the sound of the register being opened. The roll call is about to begin, and you silently pray your name won't be mangled beyond recognition. You practice your present miss in your head, hoping your voice won't crack. The first bell may have brought you here, but the real test is just beginning. As the last echoes of the bell fade, you realize you've survived the first hurdle. The day stretches ahead, full of rules, routines, and the occasional surprise. You take a deep breath, straighten your back, and prepare for whatever comes next. After all, in the Victorian schoolhouse, every day is a lesson in survival. And maybe, just maybe, in learning something new. You stand in line, shifting your weight from foot to foot as the morning assembly begins. The air in the hall is chilly, and you can see your breath if you exhale just right, though you try not to, since Mrs. Grimble is watching for any sign of fidgeting. The rows of children stretch from the battered piano at the front all the way to the back wall, where the paint is peeling in a way that looks suspiciously like a map of Australia. You wonder if anyone else has noticed, or if you're the only one with a wandering mind this early in the day. The teacher at the piano, Mr. Puddlewick, cracks his knuckles and launches into a hymn. You mumble along, trying to remember the words and hoping your voice doesn't squeak. Mainstream fact: Victorian school assemblies almost always began with a hymn or prayer, a tradition meant to set a moral tone for the day. Quirky tidbit: some schools had a singing monitor, a student whose only job was to shush anyone singing off-key. You glance around, half expecting to see someone with a badge that says official shusher, but no luck. After the hymn, it's time for the Lord's Prayer. You bow your head, peeking through your lashes at the row in front of you. Someone's shoelace is untied, and you wonder if they'll trip later. The teacher's voice drones on, and you try to keep your mind from drifting to breakfast, or the way the sunlight is creeping across the floorboards. Historians still argue whether these daily prayers actually made children more virtuous or just better at daydreaming with their eyes closed. The roll call begins, and you tense up. Mrs. Grimble reads each name with the precision of a drill sergeant, pausing just long enough to make you sweat. Adams, Mary. Present, Miss. Barker, Thomas. Present, Miss. The pattern is hypnotic, and you almost miss your own name. When it comes, you blurt out present, Miss, little too loudly, earning a few snickers from the back row. You feel your cheeks burn, but at least you didn't stutter, or worse, forget to answer at all. There's always that one kid who tries to be clever, answering with a joke or a funny voice. Today, it's Billy Jenkins, who says here and accounted for, ma'am, in a mock military tone. The room freezes. Mrs. Grimble fixes him with a stare that could curdle milk. "We are not in the army, Mr. Jenkins," she says, and you can almost hear the collective intake of breath. Quirky tidbit: some Victorian teachers kept a punishment book just for recording creative mischief like this. You wonder if Billy's name is already in it, or if he's just trying to set a new record. The roll call drags on, and you start to notice the little things. The way the sunlight glints off the brass bell, the faint smell of coal smoke from the stove in the corner, the nervous tapping of someone's foot behind you. You try to stand still, but your legs are getting tired. Historians still debate whether Victorian children were really better at standing for long periods, or if they just learned to hide their discomfort. Finally, the last name is called, and Mrs. Grimble snaps the register shut with a sound like a mousetrap. She gives a short speech about the importance of punctuality, reminding everyone that to be late is to be disrespectful. You nod along, even though you know the real reason everyone is on time is the threat of missing lunch. Or worse, being made to stand in the corner with the dunce cap. Mainstream fact: the dunce cap was a real thing, used to shame students who were late, disruptive, or just unlucky enough to get a question wrong. Quirky tidbit: some caps were decorated with bells so everyone could hear you coming. The assembly ends with a reminder about the day's schedule. Arithmetic first, then reading, then penmanship. You try to remember if you did your sums last night, or if you just meant to. The teachers file out and the students follow, shuffling in neat lines toward their classrooms. You catch a glimpse of the playground through the window, the grass still wet with dew, and make a mental note to avoid the muddy patch by the fence. As you walk, you hear whispers about who got a gold star yesterday, who's in trouble for talking, and who might have a new pencil. The social hierarchy of the Victorian schoolhouse is as complicated as any royal court, and you do your best to stay out of trouble. Historians still argue whether these strict routines built character or just made everyone really good at pretending to pay attention. You reach your classroom, heart still thumping from the tension of roll call. The desks are lined up in perfect rows, each one just big enough for a small child and a mountain of anxiety. You take your seat, trying not to scrape the chair too loudly, and prepare for the next round of rules and rituals. The day has only just begun, and already you feel like you've run a marathon without ever leaving the building. You slide into your assigned seat, a wooden desk groaning under your weight, and the burden of 100 years of nervous students. The surface is etched with initials, ink stains, and the occasional mysterious gouge, evidence that boredom and sharp objects have always been a dangerous combination. You try to sit up straight, remembering the rule. Back straight, feet flat, hands folded neatly on the desk. Victorian teachers believed that good posture led to good morals, or at least fewer naps during lessons. Mainstream fact: posture was so important that some schools used special back straighteners, straps or boards tied to your chair to keep you upright. Quirky tidbit: there are stories of students tying their own shoelaces together just to have an excuse to bend over and rest for a moment. You glance around the room, taking in the rows of identical desks, each one a tiny island of order in a sea of chaos. The teacher's desk sits at the front, raised on a small platform so she can see everything and everyone. You wonder if she has eyes in the back of her head or if she just knows all the tricks. Historians still argue whether Victorian teachers were genuinely more observant, or if students were just more obvious in their mischief. The teacher, Miss Peabody, sweeps into the room, her skirts rustling like autumn leaves. She carries a stack of exercise books and a look that says she's seen it all before. She pauses at the front, scanning the room for slouchers, fidgeters, and anyone foolish enough to be caught whispering. You freeze, hands folded, eyes forward, trying to look as innocent as possible. The girl next to you is already in trouble for tapping her pencil, and you make a mental note to keep your own hands still. Miss Peabody begins the daily desk inspection, gliding down the rows with the precision of a hawk. She checks for clean hands, tidy hair, and, most importantly, neat desks. You hold your breath as she pauses by your desk, her eyes narrowing at the ink stain you tried to hide with your sleeve. She says nothing, but you know she's made a note. Mainstream fact: Victorian students were expected to keep their desks spotless with everything in its proper place. Quirky tidbit: some students hid contraband, like marbles, toffees, or forbidden notes, in secret compartments carved into their desks. You wonder what treasures might be hidden in yours, but you're too afraid to look. The lesson begins, and you do your best to sit perfectly still. The rules are simple: no slouching, no leaning, no crossing your legs. If you must sneeze, do it quietly and with a handkerchief. If you drop something, wait for permission to pick it up. Historians still debate whether these strict rules actually improved learning or just made everyone really good at sitting still for long periods. You try to focus on the lesson, but your mind keeps wandering. The desk is hard and unforgiving, and your legs are already starting to ache. You shift slightly, hoping Miss Peabody won't notice. She does, of course, and gives you a look that could freeze water. You snap back to attention, determined not to be the next example. The boy in front of you is less lucky. He squirms in his seat, trying to scratch an itch without being seen. Miss Peabody swoops in, tapping his desk with her ruler. "Proper posture, please," she says, and he straightens up so fast you can almost hear his spine crack. Quirky tidbit. Some teachers used a posture stick, a long rod placed behind students' backs to keep them sitting straight. You're grateful your school hasn't adopted that particular torture device yet. You glance at the clock, willing the hands to move faster. The lesson drags on, and you start to count the number of knots in the wood grain on your desk. You reach 27 before Miss Peabody calls on you to answer a question. You stammer out a reply, hoping it's close enough to correct. She nods, and you feel a wave of relief. Mainstream fact. Victorian classrooms were often so strict that students were afraid to speak unless spoken to. Quirky tidbit. Some schools had a talking stick, a decorated baton that only the person holding it was allowed to speak. You wonder if that would make things better or worse. As the lesson continues, you notice the little rituals that keep the class in order. When the teacher asks a question, you must raise your hand. No waving, no snapping, just a quiet, dignified gesture. If you need to leave your seat, you must ask permission and wait for a nod. If you're caught passing notes, you'll have to read them aloud to the class, a fate worse than detention. Historians still argue whether these rituals created a sense of discipline or just a culture of fear. You do your best to follow the rules, but it's not easy. The desk is uncomfortable, the room is stuffy, and your stomach is already rumbling. You sneak a glance at the window, where a bird is hopping along the sill, free as can be. You wonder what it would be like to fly away just for a little while. The lesson finally ends, and you stretch your legs under the desk, careful not to make a sound. Miss Peabody gives one last look around the room, making sure everyone is still in their proper place. You breathe a sigh of relief, knowing you've survived another round of Victorian desk etiquette. For now, at least, you're safe. The teacher's desk is a fortress of authority, stacked with lesson books, a brass bell, and a collection of tools that look more suited to a magician than an educator. You watch as Miss Peabody arranges her arsenal, a long wooden pointer, a box of chalk, a sand timer, and, looming largest of all, the dreaded cane. Mainstream fact. Corporal punishment was a standard part of Victorian schooling, with canes, rulers, and even leather straps used to encourage good behavior. Quirky tidbit. Some teachers had personalized canes, giving them names like Old Faithful or the Persuader. You wonder if Miss Peabody's cane has a secret name, whispered among the bravest students. She picks up the pointer and taps it against the blackboard, sending a cloud of chalk dust into the air. The board is covered in neat, looping script, the kind that makes your own handwriting look like chicken scratch. You try to copy the letters in your mind, hoping you'll remember them when it's your turn. Historians still argue whether the blackboard was the greatest teaching tool of the era, or just a way to make sure everyone could see your mistakes in extra-large letters. Miss Peabody demonstrates the day's lesson, her pointer tracing each word with military precision. She pauses to underline a particularly tricky spelling, then turns to the class with a raised eyebrow. You know what's coming next? The dreaded volunteer. You shrink in your seat, hoping to blend into the woodwork, but she calls on you anyway. You shuffle to the front, heart pounding, and take the chalk with trembling fingers. The board feels cold and slick, and you do your best to write the word without smudging it. Mainstream fact. Victorian students were often called to the board to demonstrate their knowledge or their lack of it. Quirky tidbit. Some students developed elaborate chalk tricks, like writing upside down or with both hands, just to impress their classmates, and sometimes distract the teacher. You return to your seat, relieved to have survived, but the tension in the room is still thick. Miss Peabody moves on to the sand timer, flipping it over with a flourish. The grains begin to fall, marking the time for a spelling test. You scramble to find your slate and chalk, trying not to drop anything. The teacher calls out words, each one harder than the last, and you do your best to keep up. Historians still debate whether these timed tests actually improved memory or just made everyone really good at panicking quietly. As the test ends, Miss Peabody collects the slates, inspecting each one for neatness and accuracy. She frowns at a particularly messy slate, then holds it up for the class to see. "This," she says, "is what happens when you don't pay attention." You feel a wave of sympathy for the unlucky student, but also relief that it's not you. Mainstream fact: public shaming was a common tactic in Victorian classrooms used to enforce discipline and motivate students. Quirky tidbit: some teachers had a gallery of shame, a special shelf for the worst work of the week. You wonder if your slate will ever end up there, and make a silent vow to practice your handwriting tonight. The lesson shifts to arithmetic, and Miss Peabody brings out a set of wooden counting rods. She demonstrates addition and subtraction, her hands moving with practiced ease. You try to follow along, but the numbers start to blur together. The teacher's pointer taps out a rhythm on the desk, keeping everyone on their toes. Historians still argue whether these physical tools made math easier or just gave students more things to drop on the floor. Suddenly, there's a commotion at the back of the room. A boy has dropped his slate, and it shatters with a sound like breaking ice. Miss Peabody's eyes narrow, and she marches over, cane in hand. The room holds its breath as she delivers a stern lecture on carelessness, then sends the boy to the corner to stand with his nose to the wall. Mainstream fact: corner time was a common punishment meant to give students time to reflect on their mistakes. Quirky tidbit: some corners were decorated with embarrassing hats or signs, just to make the experience extra memorable. You try not to look at the boy in the corner, but it's hard not to. You wonder what it would be like to stand there, everyone watching, the minutes dragging by. Historians still debate whether these punishments actually changed behavior or just made students better at not getting caught. The lesson continues, the teacher's tools clicking and clacking in a steady rhythm. You watch the sand timer, the pointer, the cane, all symbols of authority, all reminders that you're not in charge here. You do your best to stay out of trouble, to keep your desk neat, your answers ready, and your hands where the teacher can see them. As the bell rings for the next lesson, you breathe a sigh of relief. You've survived another round of Victorian classroom terrors, and you're one step closer to lunchtime. For now, at least, the cane stays on the desk and you stay in your seat, safe, if only for a little while. The bell's echo fades, and you brace yourself for the first real lesson of the day. Reading aloud, there's a stack of battered readers on the teacher's desk, their covers worn soft by generations of nervous hands. Miss Peabody hands them out one by one, her eyes scanning the room for anyone who looks too eager or too terrified. You get your copy, its pages smelling faintly of dust and old ink, and try to find your place without looking like you're searching. The teacher opens her own book and begins, her voice crisp and clear, every syllable landing with the precision of a marching band. She reads a paragraph, then snaps the book shut and looks up. "We shall continue, row by row," she says, and you feel your stomach drop. Mainstream fact: reading aloud was a daily ritual in Victorian schools, believed to improve pronunciation, memory, and moral character. Quirky tidbit: some teachers would place a small pebble in a student's mouth to train them not to mumble. Though you're grateful, Miss Peabody seems to have skipped that particular tradition. The first row begins, each child reading a sentence in turn. Some stumble, some race ahead, and one girl reads so quietly you can barely hear her over the ticking of the classroom clock. You count the students ahead of you, trying to guess which sentence will be yours. Historians still argue whether this method actually helped students learn or just made them dread the sound of their own voices. Your turn comes, and you clear your throat, hoping you won't trip over any tricky words. The sentence is longer than you'd like, full of words like industrious and benevolence. You do your best, but your tongue tangles halfway through. Miss Peabody corrects your pronunciation, her tone sharp but not unkind. You repeat the word, feeling every eye in the room on you. Mainstream fact: teachers were relentless about correct pronunciation, believing it was a sign of good breeding. Quirky tidbit: some students developed elaborate reading voices, putting on posh accents to impress or confuse their teachers. You finish your sentence and pass the book to the next student, your heart still pounding. You listen as the others read, some stumbling, some soaring, all of them just as nervous as you. The teacher occasionally stops to explain a difficult word or ask a question about the story. You try to pay attention, but your mind keeps drifting to the window, where the world outside seems much less stressful. Miss Peabody pauses the lesson to ask a question about the story's moral. You rack your brain trying to remember what you just read. She calls on a boy in the back, who shrugs and says, "Be nice to people." The class giggles, and even the teacher cracks a smile. Quirky tidbit. Some Victorian readers were filled with stories about children who met terrible fates for minor misdeeds, like the boy who didn't wash his hands and was carried off by a mysterious fever. You wonder if anyone ever believed those stories, or if they just made for good nightmares. The lesson continues, and you notice the little rituals that go with reading aloud. If you make a mistake, you must stop, wait for correction, and then repeat the word perfectly. If you lose your place, you're expected to find it quickly, without help. If you laugh or giggle, you risk a stern look, or worse, a note sent home. Historians still debate whether these strict rules made better readers or just more anxious ones. As the reading lesson winds down, Miss Peabody collects the books and gives a short lecture on the importance of clear enunciation. She demonstrates by reading a sentence in a booming voice, then in a whisper, then in a silly accent that makes the class snicker. For a moment, the tension breaks, and you remember that even teachers can have a sense of humor. Mainstream fact. Some Victorian schools held public reading competitions with prizes for the best reader. Quirky tidbit. The most coveted prize was often a fancy bookmark, though some schools gave out apples or even a rare piece of chocolate. The lesson ends, and you feel a wave of relief. You survived reading aloud, your voice only cracking once, and you didn't get a single word wrong on the second try. You glance at your classmates, some looking just as relieved, others already dreading the next round. You wonder if anyone actually enjoys reading aloud, or if everyone is just pretending. Historians still argue whether the fear of public reading ever really goes away, or if it just gets buried under years of practice. As you put your book away, you notice a slip of paper tucked inside the cover. It's a note from a previous student, a simple good luck. Scrawled in shaky handwriting, you smile, feeling a little less alone in your struggle. Quirky tidbit. Some students left secret messages in their books, tiny acts of rebellion in a world of rules. You wonder what other secrets the schoolhouse holds, and if you'll ever find them all. The bell rings, signaling the end of the lesson. You stretch your arms, grateful for the break, and prepare for whatever comes next. For now at least, you've survived the first challenge of the day, and maybe even learned a new word or two. As the bell rings, you feel a rush of excitement mixed with relief. The reading lesson is over, and now it's time for penmanship, a subject that both terrifies and fascinates you. You gather your supplies, a slate and a small inkwell, and settle back into your desk, ready to face the challenge of perfecting your handwriting. Miss Peabody has a reputation for being particularly strict about penmanship, and you can already feel the pressure mounting. Mainstream fact. In Victorian schools, penmanship was considered a vital skill, reflecting not just education, but also social status. Quirky tidbit. Some students were known to practice their letters on their arms or legs when they thought no one was looking, turning their skin into a canvas of ink. Miss Peabody stands at the front of the room, her own pen poised like a sword. She demonstrates the proper grip, the angle of the pen, and the way to form each letter with grace and precision. You watch closely, trying to absorb every detail. The way she moves her hand is almost mesmerizing, and you can't help but admire the fluidity of her strokes. Historians still debate whether the emphasis on penmanship in Victorian education was truly beneficial, or if it just created a generation of anxious writers. Once she finishes her demonstration, she hands out sheets of lined paper, each one marked with faint blue lines to guide your writing. You take a deep breath and dip your pen into the inkwell, the cool liquid glistening like a tiny pool of potential. You begin to write the alphabet, each letter a small battle against the urge to rush. The ink flows smoothly, but your hand feels clumsy, and you can't help but glance at the girl next to you, whose letters look like they belong in a fancy book. As you write, you can hear the soft scratching of pens on paper, a soothing sound that almost lulls you into a trance. You focus on forming each letter perfectly, trying to remember Miss Peabody's instructions. But as you reach the letter G, your pen slips, leaving a blot of ink that spreads like a tiny puddle. You wince, knowing that this will not go unnoticed. Mainstream fact: ink blots were a common source of frustration for students, often leading to a stern reprimand from the teacher. Quirky tidbit: some students would try to cover their mistakes with elaborate doodles, turning errors into art. Though Miss Peabody was not a fan of this particular strategy. Miss Peabody walks around the room, inspecting each student's work. You try to keep your head down, but you can feel her gaze lingering on your desk. When she finally reaches you, she raises an eyebrow at the ink blot. "A little more care, please," she says, her tone firm but not unkind. You nod, feeling a mix of embarrassment and determination. You take a deep breath and start again, this time focusing on each stroke as if it were a dance. As the lesson continues, you notice the little rituals that come with penmanship practice. If you make a mistake, you must draw a line through it and write the word again, all while maintaining a neat appearance. If you drop your pen, you must ask for permission to retrieve it, and if you're caught daydreaming, you risk a visit to the corner. Historians still argue whether these strict rules helped students develop better writing skills, or just made them more anxious about making mistakes. You finally finish your practice sheet, and as you look over your work, you feel a sense of accomplishment. The letters are not perfect, but they're better than before. You glance at the clock, willing the hands to move faster. The lesson is almost over, and you can already taste the anticipation of lunchtime. Mainstream fact: lunchtime was often a highlight of the school day, a brief respite from the rigors of learning. Quirky tidbit: some students would trade their lunches like currency, swapping sandwiches for sweets or biscuits, creating a bustling underground economy. Miss Peabody calls for everyone to put their pens down, and you feel a wave of relief wash over you. She collects the papers, inspecting each one with a critical eye. You hold your breath, hoping for a compliment or at least a passing grade. As she moves on to the next student, you can't help but wonder what she'd say about your work. Historians still debate whether the emphasis on neatness and penmanship was truly beneficial, or if it just created a culture of anxiety around writing. The bell rings again, signaling the end of the lesson. You gather your things, feeling a mix of pride and exhaustion. You've survived another round of penmanship practice. And while your letters may not be perfect, they're a step in the right direction. As you file out of the classroom, you can already hear the sounds of the playground calling to you. Laughter, shouts, and the promise of freedom. You step outside, the fresh air hitting your face like a splash of cold water. The playground is a chaotic scene of children running, jumping, and playing games you've never heard of. You take a moment to soak it all in, grateful for the break from the classroom. For now, at least, you're free from the watchful eyes of Miss Peabody and her collection of teaching tools. The playground is a whirlwind of activity, a stark contrast to the rigid confines of the classroom. You step onto the grass, feeling the cool earth beneath your feet, and take a deep breath of fresh air. The sounds of laughter and shouts fill your ears, and for a moment, you forget about the morning's lessons and the pressure of penmanship. Mainstream fact: Victorian playgrounds were often simple, with few toys or equipment, relying instead on the creativity of children to invent their own games. Quirky tidbit: some schools had play monitors, students tasked with ensuring everyone played fairly, though many just used the position to settle personal scores. You scan the playground, searching for your friends. A group of boys is playing a game of tag, darting around trees and dodging each other with gleeful shouts. Nearby, a few girls are skipping rope, their laughter ringing out like music. You spot your friend Clara, who waves you over with a grin. She's holding a small ball, and you can tell she has a game in mind. "Come on, we're playing ball," she calls, her eyes sparkling with excitement. You join her and the others, feeling the thrill of freedom wash over you. The rules are simple. Throw the ball, catch it, and try not to drop it. You take your place in the circle, ready to join in the fun. Historians still argue whether unstructured playtime was essential for childhood development or if it just led to chaos and scraped knees. As the game begins, you feel the tension of the classroom fade away. You throw the ball with all your might, and it sails through the air, landing perfectly in Clara's hands. She beams at you, and you can't help but smile back. The game continues, each throw and catch building your confidence. You laugh as you dodge a wild throw from one of the boys, narrowly avoiding a collision with a tree. But as the game progresses, you notice a few children standing off to the side, watching with disinterest. They seem to be whispering among themselves, casting glances at your group. You can't help but feel a twinge of unease. Mainstream fact. Social dynamics in Victorian schools were often complex, with cliques forming around shared interests or backgrounds. Quirky tidbit. Some students would create elaborate secret clubs, complete with passwords and initiation rituals, just to feel special. Suddenly, one of the boys from the sidelines steps forward, a smirk on his face. "You think you're so good at ball? Let's see you throw it over the fence," he taunts, pointing to the high wooden fence that borders the playground. You feel a mix of challenge and apprehension. The fence is tall, and the idea of throwing the ball over it seems daunting. Clara nudges you, her eyes sparkling with mischief. "Go on. Show him you can do it," she encourages. You take a deep breath, feeling the weight of your friend's expectations. You step back, focusing on the fence, and with all your might, you throw the ball. It sails through the air, higher and higher, and for a moment, you think it might actually make it. But just as it reaches the peak of its arc, it hits the top of the fence and bounces back, landing with a soft thud on the grass. The other boy bursts into laughter, and you feel your cheeks flush with embarrassment. Mainstream fact. Children often faced social pressures to prove themselves, leading to moments of both triumph and humiliation. Quirky tidbit. Some Victorian children would create elaborate stories about their playground feats, turning ordinary games into epic tales of bravery. You try to shake off the embarrassment, but the boys' laughter lingers in your mind. Clara gives you a reassuring smile, and the game continues. But you can't help but feel a little less confident. You throw the ball again, this time with less enthusiasm, and it lands awkwardly in the grass. You can feel the weight of the other boy's gaze, and it makes you want to shrink back. Just then, the bell rings, signaling the end of recess. You feel a mix of relief and disappointment as you gather your things. The game was fun, but the taunts linger like a shadow. As you walk back to the classroom, you can't help but wonder if you'll ever be able to shake off that feeling of inadequacy. Once inside, you settle back into your desk, the familiar tension creeping back in. Miss Peabody is already at the front, preparing for the next lesson. You take a deep breath, reminding yourself that everyone has their strengths and weaknesses. You may not have thrown the ball over the fence, but you still managed to have fun with your friends. The next lesson begins, and Miss Peabody introduces geography. She pulls down a large map of the world, its colors vibrant and inviting. You can't help but feel a spark of curiosity as she points out different countries, their names rolling off her tongue like a melody. Mainstream fact. Geography was a crucial subject in Victorian education, believed to foster a sense of global awareness and civic responsibility. Quirky tidbit. Some students would create their own maps, complete with fanciful drawings of mythical creatures and imaginary lands. As she explains the locations of various countries, you find yourself getting lost in the details. You imagine what it would be like to travel to far-off places, to see the mountains, rivers, and cities she describes. The world feels vast and full of possibilities, and for a moment, the earlier embarrassment fades away. Miss Peabody asks questions, and you raise your hand, eager to participate. You answer correctly, and she nods approvingly, a smile breaking through her usual stern demeanor. You feel a rush of pride, a reminder that you have your own strengths, even if they don't always shine in the same way as others. As the lesson continues, you find yourself captivated by the stories of explorers and adventurers, their journeys echoing in your mind. You realize that while the playground may have its challenges, the classroom offers its own adventures, ones that can take you to places you've only dreamed of. The bell rings again, signaling the end of the geography lesson. You gather your things, feeling a renewed sense of confidence. You may not have thrown the ball over the fence, but you've navigated the world of geography with ease. As you leave the classroom, you remind yourself that every day is a new opportunity to learn, grow, and discover your own strengths. As you step out of the classroom, the afternoon sun spills into the hallway, casting long shadows that dance along the walls. The day is winding down, and you can feel the energy in the air shift. The promise of freedom is just around the corner, but first, there's one more lesson to tackle: history. You've always found history fascinating, filled with tales of heroes, battles, and the rise and fall of empires. Today, Miss Peabody has promised to share stories about the great explorers of the Victorian era, and you can't help but feel a thrill of anticipation. You settle back into your desk, the familiar wooden surface cool against your palms. Miss Peabody stands at the front, her expression a mix of excitement and authority. She begins by recounting the adventures of Captain Cook, his voyages across the oceans, and the lands he discovered. You can almost picture the ships sailing through stormy seas, the crew battling the elements in search of new worlds. Mainstream fact: the Victorian era was a time of great exploration, with many adventurers mapping uncharted territories. Quirky tidbit: some explorers returned with exotic animals, leading to the creation of menageries in wealthy households where lions and monkeys became the talk of the town. As she speaks, you find yourself lost in the stories, your imagination painting vivid pictures of distant lands and daring escapades. You can almost hear the crash of waves and the creak of wooden ships. Miss Peabody's voice rises and falls, drawing you deeper into the narrative. You raise your hand to ask a question about the indigenous peoples Captain Cook encountered, eager to learn more about their cultures and histories. Miss Peabody nods, pleased with your curiosity. "That's an excellent question," she replies, and you feel a swell of pride. She explains the complexities of cultural encounters, the importance of understanding and respecting different ways of life. You listen intently, absorbing every word. Historians still debate the ethics of exploration during this time, questioning whether it was truly about discovery or often about conquest and colonization. As the lesson progresses, Miss Peabody introduces other explorers, each with their own tales of bravery and discovery. You learn about David Livingstone, who ventured into the heart of Africa, and the challenges he faced in his quest to map the continent. The stories are both thrilling and sobering, reminding you that exploration often came at a great cost. You can't help but admire the courage of these individuals, even as you grapple with the moral complexities of their journeys. The bell rings, signaling the end of the school day. But Miss Peabody continues to share stories, her passion for history evident in every word. You're captivated, hanging on her every sentence, wishing the day could stretch on just a little longer. Mainstream fact: Victorian schools often emphasize the importance of history as a way to instill values and a sense of national pride. Quirky tidbit: some students would create elaborate timelines, complete with drawings and illustrations, to visualize historical events. Finally, as the last story comes to a close, Miss Peabody dismisses the class. You gather your things, feeling a mix of satisfaction and longing. The day has been filled with challenges, but it has also been rich with learning and discovery. You step into the hallway. the chatter of your classmates filling the air as everyone rushes to grab their belongings and head home. As you walk outside, the sun is beginning to dip low in the sky, casting a warm, golden glow over the playground. You spot Clara and a few other friends gathered near the swings, their laughter ringing out like music. You join them, feeling the weight of the day lift off your shoulders. The playground is alive with energy, and you can't wait to join in the fun. "Did you hear about the explorers Miss Peabody talked about?" Clara asks, her eyes wide with excitement. You nod, eager to share your favorite parts of the lesson. The conversation flows easily, each of you taking turns to recount the stories that had captivated you. You feel a sense of camaraderie, a shared enthusiasm for the adventures of the past. As the sun sets, casting long shadows across the playground, you realize that today has been more than just a series of lessons. It has been a journey through the challenges of the classroom, the thrill of exploration, and the joy of friendship. You faced your fears, learned new things, and discovered that even in the midst of strict rules and expectations, there is room for creativity and imagination. As the final bell rings, signaling the end of the day, you and your friends linger for a moment longer, reluctant to leave the playground behind. You know that tomorrow will bring new challenges and adventures, but for now, you're content to bask in the warmth of the setting sun and the laughter of your friends. With a smile on your face, you head home, your heart full of stories and dreams of exploration. You may not have thrown the ball over the fence, but you've navigated the world of learning with courage and curiosity. And as you walk, you can't help but wonder what new adventures await you in the days to come. The next morning dawns bright and clear, the sun streaming through your window and casting playful patterns on the floor. You stretch and yawn, feeling the excitement of a new day bubbling within you. Today, you remind yourself, is a fresh opportunity to learn, explore, and perhaps even face new challenges. You quickly dress, your mind racing with thoughts of what Miss Peabody might have in store for the class. Breakfast is a hurried affair, your mother bustling about the kitchen, preparing toast and tea. You grab a slice of bread, slather it with butter, and take a moment to savor the warmth of home before heading out the door. The walk to school is filled with the sounds of chirping birds and the distant laughter of children, a reminder that the world outside is alive and full of possibilities. As you arrive at school, you notice a group of students gathered near the entrance, their voices hushed and conspiratorial. Curiosity piqued, you approach, trying to catch snippets of their conversation. It turns out they're discussing a new project Miss Peabody has assigned, a history presentation on famous explorers. Each student will choose an explorer to research and present to the class. Mainstream fact: project-based learning was becoming more popular in Victorian schools, encouraging students to engage deeply with subjects. Quirky tidbit: some students would dress up as their chosen historical figures, complete with makeshift costumes to add flair to their presentations. You feel a rush of excitement at the thought of diving into the life of an explorer. You've always been fascinated by their adventures, and now you have the chance to share that passion with your classmates. You quickly decide to research David Livingstone, intrigued by his journeys through Africa and his dedication to understanding the cultures he encountered. As the bell rings, signaling the start of the day, you settle into your desk, ready to tackle the new assignment. Miss Peabody explains the project in detail, outlining the expectations and encouraging everyone to be creative. You jot down notes, your mind racing with ideas for how to present Livingstone's story. You could create a timeline of his travels, include maps of his routes, or even bring in illustrations of the landscapes he encountered. After the morning lessons, Miss Peabody gives you time to begin your research. You pull out your slate and start jotting down key points about Livingstone's life. You learn about his early years, his passion for exploration, and his commitment to missionary work. The more you discover, the more inspired you feel. Historians still debate the impact of Livingstone's work, weighing his contributions against the complexities of colonialism, but you're determined to focus on his adventurous spirit. As you work, you can hear the buzz of excitement around you. Classmates are discussing their chosen explorers, sharing snippets of information and ideas for their presentations. You glance over at Clara, who has chosen to research Captain Cook. She's animatedly explaining his voyages to a group of friends, her enthusiasm infectious. You can't help but smile, feeling a sense of camaraderie in the shared excitement of learning. The time flies by, and before you know it, the bell rings again, signaling the end of the research period. Miss Peabody reminds everyone to continue their work at home, and you leave the classroom with a sense of purpose. You can't wait to dive deeper into Livingstone's story and uncover more about his adventures. As you walk home, your mind is filled with thoughts of the project. You imagine what it would be like to stand in front of the class, sharing Livingstone's journey, his challenges, and his triumphs. You picture the maps you'll create, the illustrations you'll find, and the excitement of presenting to your classmates. The idea of sharing your passion for exploration fills you with a sense of pride and determination. That evening, you sit at your desk, surrounded by books and papers, eager to continue your research. You pore over maps of Africa, tracing Livingstone's routes with your finger, imagining the landscapes he must have seen. You read about the people he encountered, their cultures, and the challenges he faced in his quest for knowledge. Each new piece of information adds to your excitement, and you can't help but feel a connection to the explorer's spirit. As the night wears on, you begin to craft your presentation. You sketch out a timeline, noting key events in Livingstone's life, and gather illustrations to accompany your words. You practice speaking aloud, imagining the faces of your classmates as you share the story of a man who dared to venture into the unknown. Mainstream fact: public speaking was often a key component of Victorian education, believed to build confidence and communication skills. Quirky tidbit: some students would practice their speeches in front of mirrors, perfecting their gestures and expressions. Finally, as you finish your preparations, you feel a sense of accomplishment wash over you. You've poured your heart into this project, and you can't wait to share it with your classmates. You know that the journey of learning is just as important as the destination, and you're excited to embark on this new adventure. The next day at school, you arrive early, eager to finalize your presentation. You set up your materials on your desk, arranging the maps and illustrations just so. As your classmates filter in, you can feel the buzz of anticipation in the air. Everyone is excited to share their findings, and you can't help but feel a sense of camaraderie among your peers. Miss Peabody begins the presentations, calling on students one by one. You listen intently, captivated by the stories of explorers like Marco Polo, Christopher Columbus, and Amelia Earhart. Each presentation is unique, filled with passion and creativity. You take notes, inspired by the different approaches your classmates take. Finally, it's your turn. You stand up, heart racing, and walk to the front of the classroom. You take a deep breath, reminding yourself of all the hard work you've put into this project. As you begin to speak, you feel the nervousness fade away, replaced by excitement. You share Livingstone's story, his adventures, and the lessons he learned along the way. You point to the maps, illustrating his routes, and show the illustrations you've gathered, bringing his journey to life. As you speak, you can see your classmates leaning in, captivated by the tale. You feel a sense of connection with them, a shared appreciation for the spirit of exploration. When you finish, the room erupts in applause, and you can't help but smile, feeling a rush of pride. Mainstream fact: positive reinforcement was a key aspect of Victorian education, encouraging students to take risks and share their ideas. Quirky tidbit: some teachers would reward outstanding presentations with small tokens like stickers or bookmarks to celebrate students' achievements. As you return to your seat, Clara gives you a thumbs up, and you can't help but feel a sense of accomplishment. You've faced your fears, shared your passion, and connected with your classmates in a meaningful way. The day has been filled with learning, laughter, and the joy of discovery. As the final bell rings, signaling the end of the school day, you leave the classroom with a sense of fulfillment. You've not only learned about David Livingstone, but also about the power of sharing stories and the importance of exploration, both in the world and within yourself. You walk home, your heart light, knowing that each day brings new adventures and opportunities to learn. The following days pass in a whirlwind of excitement and learning. The history presentations have sparked a newfound enthusiasm among your classmates. And the conversations in the playground are filled with tales of explorers, their daring feats, and the lessons they imparted. You find yourself drawn into discussions about the impact of exploration on different cultures, the ethical dilemmas faced by explorers, and the importance of understanding history from multiple perspectives. Mainstream fact: the Victorian era saw a growing interest in social sciences, leading to debates about the implications of colonialism and cultural exchange. Quirky tidbit: some students would create explorer clubs where they would meet to discuss their favorite adventurers and share stories of their own backyard explorations. One afternoon, as you sit in the classroom, Miss Peabody announces a new project, a collaborative class mural that will depict the journeys of various explorers. Each student will contribute a section illustrating the adventures of their chosen figure. The idea fills you with excitement, and you can already envision how your part of the mural will look. Vivid colors, maps, and images of Livingstone's encounters with wildlife and indigenous peoples. As the class breaks into groups to brainstorm ideas, you gather with Clara and a few other friends. You discuss how to represent Livingstone's journey visually, deciding to include a large map of Africa with key locations marked. Clara suggests adding illustrations of the animals he encountered, while another classmate proposes incorporating quotes from Livingstone's writings. The collaboration feels electric, and you can sense the creative energy in the air. You spend the next few days working on the mural, each session filled with laughter and creativity. You paint, draw, and collaborate, sharing ideas and techniques. The classroom transforms into a vibrant space filled with the sounds of brushes on paper and the chatter of excited voices. Mainstream fact: collaborative projects were encouraged in Victorian education, believed to foster teamwork and creativity. Quirky tidbit: some schools held art days where students would showcase their artistic talents, often leading to impromptu exhibitions in the hallways. As the mural begins to take shape, you feel a sense of pride in what you're creating together. Each section tells a story, and the mural becomes a tapestry of exploration, adventure, and discovery. You find yourself reflecting on the lessons you've learned about Livingstone and the importance of understanding the complexities of history. The mural is not just a representation of explorers. It's a celebration of the diverse cultures and experiences that shape our world. One day, as you're working on your section, Miss Peabody walks around the room inspecting the progress. She stops by your group, her eyes lighting up as she takes in the mural. "This is wonderful," she exclaims, her enthusiasm infectious. "You've captured the spirit of exploration beautifully. Remember, it's important to honor the stories of those who came before us, as well as the cultures they encountered." Her words resonate with you, and you feel a renewed sense of purpose as you continue to paint. You want to ensure that Livingstone's story is told with respect and understanding, acknowledging both his achievements and the complexities of his journey. You discuss this with your group, and together, you decide to include a small section that highlights the cultures Livingstone encountered, emphasizing the importance of mutual respect and understanding. As the mural nears completion, the excitement in the classroom is palpable. You can't wait to unveil it to the rest of the school. Miss Peabody announces that there will be a special assembly to showcase the mural, inviting parents and other classes to come and see the students' hard work. The thought of sharing your creation with a larger audience fills you with a mix of pride and nervousness. On the day of the assembly, the classroom buzzes with anticipation. You and your classmates gather in front of the mural, each of you wearing a handmade badge that identifies your explorer. The room is filled with parents, teachers, and students from other classes, all eager to see the culmination of your efforts. Miss Peabody introduces the mural, explaining the significance of each explorer represented and the stories behind their journeys. As she speaks, you feel a sense of belonging and pride in being part of this collaborative effort. When it's your turn to speak, You step forward, heart racing, and share a few words about David Livingstone and the importance of understanding the cultures he encountered. You emphasize the need for respect and empathy in exploration, and as you finish, the audience applauds and you feel a rush of warmth. After the assembly, students and parents gather around the mural, discussing the different sections and asking questions. You find yourself engaged in conversations, sharing insights about Livingstone and listening to others talk about their explorers. The atmosphere is electric, filled with curiosity and enthusiasm for learning. As the day comes to a close, you reflect on how far you've come since the beginning of the project. You've not only learned about the life of an explorer, but also about the power of collaboration, creativity, and understanding. The mural stands as a testament to the collective effort of your class, a vibrant representation of exploration and the stories that connect us all. Walking home that day, you feel a sense of fulfillment and excitement for the future. You've discovered that learning is not just about facts and figures. It's about the connections you make, the stories you share, and the understanding you gain. You can't wait to see what new adventures await you in the days to come, both in the classroom and beyond. The days following the mural assembly are filled with a sense of accomplishment and camaraderie among your classmates. The mural has become a point of pride for the entire school, and you can often hear students discussing the explorers and their adventures during recess. The conversations spark your curiosity even further, and you find yourself wanting to learn more about the world beyond your small town. One afternoon, as you sit in the classroom, Miss Peabody announces a new initiative, a World Cultures Week. The school will host a series of events celebrating different cultures from around the globe, complete with presentations, food tastings, and even traditional games. The idea fills you with excitement, and you can already envision the vibrant displays and the chance to learn about the diverse cultures that make up our world. Mainstream fact: cultural education was becoming increasingly important in Victorian schools, promoting understanding and appreciation of diversity. Quirky tidbit: some schools would host international fairs, where students would dress in traditional clothing and share stories from their heritage. Miss Peabody encourages each student to choose a culture to research and present during the week. You eagerly raise your hand, excited to participate. After some thought, you decide to explore the culture of the indigenous peoples of Africa, inspired by Livingstone's encounters during his travels. You want to highlight their rich traditions, art, and the importance of community. As the days progress, you dive into your research, poring over books and articles about the various tribes, their customs, and their ways of life. You learn about their art, music, and storytelling traditions, and you're captivated by the depth and beauty of their culture. You take notes, sketching ideas for your presentation, and even plan to create a small display featuring traditional artifacts and artwork. In the classroom, the atmosphere is electric as students share their ideas and research. Clara has chosen to present on Japanese culture, and she excitedly discusses the tea ceremony and traditional clothing. Another classmate is researching the cultures of the Native American tribes, eager to share their stories and traditions. The diversity of topics is inspiring, and you can feel the excitement building as everyone prepares for World Cultures Week. As the week approaches, Miss Peabody organizes a special assembly to kick off the event. She invites parents and community members to join, creating an opportunity for everyone to come together and celebrate the richness of different cultures. You can't wait to showcase what you've learned and share the beauty of the indigenous cultures you've researched. On the day of the assembly, the school is buzzing with energy. Students are dressed in colorful clothing representing their chosen cultures, and the hallways are adorned with decorations and displays. You set up your presentation, arranging your materials and preparing for the audience. The excitement in the air is palpable, and you can't help but feel a mix of nerves and anticipation. Miss Peabody opens the assembly, welcoming everyone and explaining the importance of understanding and appreciating different cultures. She emphasizes that learning about others helps us build empathy and respect, values that are essential in our interconnected world. As she speaks, you feel a sense of pride in being part of this celebration of diversity. When it's your turn to present, you step forward, heart racing. You share the stories of the indigenous peoples of Africa, highlighting their art, music, and community values. You display your artifacts and illustrations, explaining their significance and the stories behind them. As you speak, you can see the audience engaged, their eyes lighting up with curiosity. Mainstream fact. Presentations like these were designed to foster understanding and appreciation of cultural diversity among students. Quirky tidbit. Some students would incorporate traditional music or dance into their presentations, turning them into lively performances. After your presentation, you feel a rush of accomplishment. You've shared your passion for the culture you've researched, and the audience's response is overwhelmingly positive. You return to your seat, feeling a sense of fulfillment and connection to your classmates. The assembly continues, with each student sharing their presentations. Clara's presentation on Japanese culture is met with awe, especially when she demonstrates the tea ceremony. Another classmate shares stories of Native American traditions, captivating the audience with tales of bravery and resilience. The diversity of voices and experiences creates a rich tapestry of learning, and you can feel the sense of community growing stronger. As the assembly comes to a close, Miss Peabody encourages everyone to explore the displays set up around the school. You wander through the hallways, marveling at the creativity and effort your classmates have put into their presentations. You stop to admire a display on Indian culture, complete with colorful fabrics and intricate artwork. Another display features traditional African masks, each one telling a story of its own. The day culminates in a potluck lunch where everyone brings dishes representing their chosen cultures. The cafeteria is filled with the delicious aromas of different cuisines, and you can't wait to sample the various dishes. You sit with your friends, sharing stories and laughter as you taste foods from around the world. Mainstream fact. Potluck lunches were a popular way to celebrate cultural diversity, allowing students to share their heritage through food. Quirky tidbit. Some students would create recipe cards to accompany their dishes, sharing the history and significance of the food they brought. As you savor the flavors of different cultures, you feel a deep sense of gratitude for the opportunity to learn and connect with others. World Cultures Week has opened your eyes to the beauty of diversity and the importance of understanding one another. You realize that exploration isn't just about discovering new lands. It's also about discovering the richness of human experiences and the stories that connect us all. As the day comes to a close, you leave school with a heart full of joy and a mind buzzing with new knowledge. You've not only learned about different cultures, but also forged deeper connections with your classmates. You can't wait to share your experiences with your family and continue exploring the world around you. Walking home, you reflect on the lessons of the week. You've discovered that every culture has its own unique stories, traditions, and values, and that understanding these differences is essential in building a more compassionate world. You feel inspired to continue your journey of exploration, both in your studies and in your everyday life. With a smile on your face, you look forward to the adventures that await you in the days to come, knowing that each new experience is an opportunity to learn, grow, and connect with the world around you. As the excitement of World Cultures Week fades, the school year continues to unfold, bringing with it new challenges and opportunities for growth. You find yourself more engaged than ever, eager to learn and explore different subjects. Miss Peabody's lessons have sparked a curiosity within you that extends beyond the classroom, and you begin to seek out books and resources on your own, diving deeper into topics that fascinate you. One afternoon, while browsing the shelves of the small library in your school, you stumble upon a book about the natural world. The cover features a stunning illustration of a lion prowling through the savannah, and you can't resist pulling it off the shelf. As you flip through the pages, you discover fascinating facts about wildlife, ecosystems, and the delicate balance of nature. Mainstream fact: nature studies were becoming increasingly popular in Victorian education, emphasizing the importance of understanding the environment. Quirky tidbit: some students would keep nature journals, documenting their observations of plants and animals, often leading to impromptu science fairs. Inspired by the book, you decide to embark on a new project, a nature journal. You want to document the plants and animals you encounter in your everyday life, observing their behaviors and learning about their habitats. You gather supplies, a blank notebook, colored pencils, and a small magnifying glass, and set out to explore your surroundings. The next day, you head to a nearby park after school, eager to begin your observations. The park is alive with activity. Children are playing, birds are chirping, and the trees sway gently in the breeze. You find a quiet spot under a large oak tree and settle down, ready to immerse yourself in the beauty of nature. You start by sketching the tree above you, its branches stretching out like arms, welcoming the sky. As you draw, you notice a squirrel darting up the trunk, pausing to nibble on an acorn. You quickly grab your notebook and jot down notes about its behavior, fascinated by how agile and quick it is. You watch as it scurries from branch to branch, and you can't help but smile at its playful antics. As the afternoon unfolds, you observe various plants and insects, taking the time to appreciate the intricate details of each one. You find a cluster of wildflowers, their vibrant colors contrasting beautifully with the green grass. You sketch them, noting their shapes and colors, and even take a moment to smell their sweet fragrance. Mainstream fact: nature observation was encouraged in Victorian education, believed to foster a sense of wonder and appreciation for the environment. Quirky tidbit: some students would create nature clubs where they would explore local parks and document their findings together. You spend hours in the park, completely absorbed in your observations. The world around you feels magical, and you realize that there is so much to learn from nature. You decide to include not just sketches, but also descriptions of your experiences in your journal, capturing the essence of each moment. As the sun begins to set, casting a warm golden glow over the park, you reluctantly pack up your things, feeling a sense of fulfillment. You've discovered a new passion for nature and observation, and you can't wait to continue your explorations. You head home, your heart light and your mind buzzing with ideas for your journal. Over the next few weeks, you make it a habit to visit the park regularly, each time discovering something new. You document the changing seasons, the arrival of migratory birds, and the blooming of flowers. You even start to identify different species of plants and animals, feeling a sense of pride in your growing knowledge. Mainstream fact: nature studies were often integrated into the curriculum, encouraging students to connect with their environment. Quirky tidbit: some students would create field guides to help identify local flora and fauna, turning their observations into valuable resources. One day, as you're sketching a family of ducks waddling by the pond, you notice a group of children nearby, gathered around a small table. They're selling lemonade and cookies, their laughter ringing out as they serve customers. You approach, curious about their little stand. They explain that they're raising money for a local animal shelter, and you can't help but admire their initiative. Inspired by their efforts, you decide to contribute by sharing your nature journal with them. You explain how you've been observing the local wildlife and how important it is to protect their habitats. The children listen intently, their eyes wide with curiosity. You offer to create a small display of your sketches and notes to help raise awareness about the animals in the area and the importance of conservation. The next day, you return to the park with your journal and set up a small display next to the lemonade stand. You invite passersby to take a look, sharing your observations and encouraging them to appreciate the beauty of nature. You children help you, excited to learn about the animals and plants you've documented. Mainstream fact: community engagement was often encouraged in Victorian education, fostering a sense of responsibility and connection to the local environment. Quirky tidbit: some students would organize nature walks to educate their peers about local wildlife, turning learning into a fun adventure. As the day unfolds, you find yourself surrounded by curious children and adults alike, all eager to learn about the local wildlife. You share stories about the animals you've observed, the importance of protecting their habitats, and how everyone can contribute to conservation efforts. The lemonade stand becomes a hub of activity, filled with laughter and learning. By the end of the day, you feel a deep sense of fulfillment. You've not only shared your passion for nature, but also inspired others to appreciate the world around them. The children at the lemonade stand thank you for your help, and you can see the spark of curiosity ignited in their eyes. You realize that your journey of exploration has taken on a new dimension, one that involves sharing knowledge and fostering a sense of community. As you walk home that evening, you reflect on the impact of your nature journal and the connections you've made. You've discovered that exploration is not just about personal growth. It's also about sharing your experiences and inspiring others to appreciate the beauty of the world. You feel a renewed sense of purpose, eager to continue your journey of discovery and to make a positive impact in your community. With a smile on your face, you look forward to the adventures that await you, knowing that each new experience is an opportunity to learn, grow, and connect with the world around you. As the weeks roll on, your nature journal becomes a cherished companion. Filled with sketches, observations, and reflections, you find yourself increasingly drawn to the natural world. Eager to explore the intricacies of ecosystems and the relationships between different species. Your passion for nature not only enriches your understanding of the environment, but also deepens your appreciation for the beauty that surrounds you. One sunny Saturday, you decide to venture further afield, exploring a nearby nature reserve that you've heard about from friends. The reserve is known for its diverse wildlife and scenic trails, and you can't wait to immerse yourself in its wonders. You pack your journal, some snacks, and your trusty magnifying glass, ready for a day of adventure. As you arrive at the nature reserve, you're greeted by the sounds of chirping birds and rustling leaves. The air is fresh and invigorating, and you feel a sense of excitement bubbling within you. You grab your journal and set off along the winding trails, eager to see what you can discover. The first thing that catches your eye is a vibrant butterfly fluttering from flower to flower. You pause to observe its delicate wings, noting the intricate patterns and colors. You quickly sketch it in your journal, capturing the beauty of the moment. Mainstream fact: nature observation encourages mindfulness, allowing individuals to connect with their surroundings. Quirky tidbit: some children would create butterfly gardens at home, planting flowers to attract these colorful creatures. As you continue along the trail, you encounter a small pond teeming with life. Dragonflies dart above the water's surface, their iridescent wings glinting in the sunlight. You sit on a nearby rock, watching as frogs leap from lily pad to lily pad, their croaks creating a symphony of sounds. You take out your journal and jot down your observations, feeling a sense of wonder at the vibrant ecosystem around you. After spending some time by the pond, you decide to explore deeper into the reserve. The trail leads you through a dense thicket of trees, their leaves whispering in the gentle breeze. You feel a sense of adventure as you navigate the winding paths, eager to see what lies ahead. Suddenly, you hear a rustling in the bushes nearby. Your heart races with excitement as you quietly approach, hoping to catch a glimpse of whatever creature is making the noise. To your delight, you spot a family of deer grazing peacefully in a clearing. You watch in awe as they move gracefully, their ears twitching at the slightest sound. You quickly pull out your journal and begin to sketch them, capturing their elegance and beauty. Mainstream fact: observing wildlife in their natural habitat fosters a deeper understanding of animal behavior and ecology. Quirky tidbit: some children would create wildlife diaries, documenting their encounters with animals and sharing their findings with friends. After spending some time observing the deer, you continue your exploration, feeling invigorated by the beauty of the reserve. You discover a variety of plants, each with its own unique characteristics. You take the time to sketch and label them in your journal, eager to learn more about their roles in the ecosystem. As the sun begins to dip lower in the sky, casting a warm golden light over the landscape, you realize it's time to head back. You retrace your steps, feeling a sense of fulfillment from the day's adventures. Your journal is filled with sketches and notes, a testament to the wonders you've encountered. On your way home, you reflect on the day's experiences, You've not only deepened your understanding of nature, but also connected with the world around you in a meaningful way. You feel a sense of responsibility to protect the environment and share your knowledge with others, inspiring them to appreciate the beauty of the natural world. The following week, you decide to organize a small nature walk for your friends, inviting them to join you in exploring the local park. You want to share your passion for nature and encourage them to observe the wildlife and plants around them. You create a simple flyer, outlining the details of the walk and what to bring, and distribute it among your classmates. On the day of the nature walk, you gather at the park, excited to share your discoveries. Your friends arrive, some with their own journals and sketching supplies, eager to participate. You lead them along the trails, pointing out interesting plants and animals as you go. You encourage them to take notes and sketches, just as you've been doing. As you walk, you share stories about the wildlife you've observed and the importance of conservation. Your friends listen intently, their curiosity piqued. You can see their enthusiasm growing as they begin to notice the beauty of the world around them. Mainstream fact: nature walks promote environmental awareness and foster a sense of stewardship among young people. Quirky tidbit: some children would create nature scavenger hunts, challenging each other to find specific plants or animals during their explorations. The walk culminates at the pond, where you all settle down to observe the wildlife. You pull out your journal and encourage your friends to do the same, sharing tips on how to sketch and document their observations. Laughter and excitement fill the air as everyone immerses themselves in the experience. As the sun begins to set, casting a warm glow over the pond, you feel a deep sense of satisfaction. You've not only shared your passion for nature, but also inspired your friends to appreciate the beauty of the environment. The day has been filled with laughter, learning, and connection. And you can't help but feel grateful for the opportunity to share this experience. Walking home that evening, you reflect on how far you've come since you first started your nature journal. You've discovered a love for exploration, a passion for learning, and the joy of sharing knowledge with others. You realize that your journey is just beginning, and you can't wait to see where it will lead you next. With a heart full of gratitude and excitement, you look forward to the adventures that await you, knowing that each new experience is an opportunity to learn, grow, and connect with the world around you. As the weeks turn into months, your nature journal continues to flourish, becoming a vibrant tapestry of your explorations and discoveries. Each page is filled with sketches, notes, and reflections, capturing the beauty of the natural world and the lessons you've learned along the way. Your passion for nature has not only deepened your understanding of the environment, but has also fostered a sense of responsibility to protect it. One crisp autumn day, as the leaves begin to change colors, you decide to organize another nature walk, this time focusing on the seasonal changes in the park. You invite your friends once again, eager to share the wonders of fall and the unique adaptations of plants and animals during this time of year. You create a new flyer, highlighting the beauty of autumn foliage, the migration of birds, and the preparation of animals for winter. On the day of the walk, the air is filled with the scent of fallen leaves and the sound of crunching underfoot. You gather your friends at the park, their faces lit up with excitement. As you lead them along the trails, you point out the vibrant colors of the leaves, explaining how chlorophyll breaks down, revealing the reds, oranges, and yellows that were hidden all summer. Mainstream fact: seasonal changes in nature provide valuable lessons about adaptation and survival. Quirky tidbit: some children would collect colorful leaves to create leaf rubbings, preserving the beauty of autumn in their art. As you walk, you encourage your friends to observe the changes in the wildlife around them. You spot a flock of geese flying overhead, honking as they head south for the winter. You explain the importance of migration and how different species prepare for the colder months. Your friends listen intently, their curiosity piqued as they begin to notice the subtle changes in their surroundings. You lead them to a small clearing where a family of squirrels is busy gathering acorns. You watch as they scurry about, storing food for the winter. You take a moment to sketch the scene, capturing the playful antics of the squirrels. Your friends join in, eager to document their observations in their own journals. Mainstream fact: observing animal behavior during seasonal changes helps foster a deeper understanding of ecology. Quirky tidbit: some children would create squirrel feeders at home, learning about animal care and the importance of providing food during winter. As the walk continues, you gather everyone around a large oak tree, its branches heavy with acorns. You explain the role of trees in the ecosystem, discussing how they provide shelter and food for various animals. You encourage your friends to think about the importance of trees in their own lives and the impact of deforestation on wildlife habitats. After spending time observing the oak tree, you decide to have a small art session. You pull out colored pencils and paper, inviting your friends to create their own autumn-inspired artwork. Laughter fills the air as everyone gets creative, drawing the vibrant colors of the leaves, the playful squirrels, and the beauty of the changing season. As the sun begins to set, casting a warm golden light over the park, you gather your friends for a final reflection. You encourage them to share what they've learned and how they can contribute to protecting the environment. The discussion is lively, filled with ideas about recycling, planting trees, and raising awareness about local wildlife. Mainstream fact: engaging in environmental discussions fosters a sense of stewardship and responsibility among young people. Quirky tidbit: some children would create environmental clubs where they would brainstorm ways to make their communities more eco-friendly. Walking home that evening, you feel a deep sense of fulfillment. You've not only shared your passion for nature, but also inspired your friends to appreciate the beauty of the environment and the importance of conservation. The day has been filled with laughter, learning, and connection, and you can't help but feel grateful for the opportunity to share these experiences. As the days grow shorter and the air turns colder, you continue to explore the changing seasons, documenting your observations in your journal. You find joy in the small details, the way frost glistens on the grass in the morning, the sound of leaves rustling in the wind, and the sight of birds gathering in flocks. Each moment becomes a treasure, a reminder of the beauty of the natural world. One day, as winter approaches, you decide to host a nature celebration at school, inviting your classmates to share their own nature journals and experiences. You envision a day filled with presentations, art displays, and discussions about the importance of protecting the environment. You create a plan, outlining the activities and inviting students to participate. On the day of the nature celebration, the school is abuzz with excitement. Students gather in the auditorium, showcasing their journals, artwork, and presentations. You feel a sense of pride as you walk around, seeing the creativity and passion of your classmates on display. Mainstream fact: celebrating nature in schools fosters a sense of community and encourages environmental awareness. Quirky tidbit: some students would create nature-themed games, turning learning into a fun and interactive experience. When it's your turn to present, you share your journey of exploration through your nature journal, highlighting the beauty of the changing seasons and the importance of conservation. You encourage your classmates to appreciate the world around them and to take action to protect it. The audience listens intently, and you can see the spark of curiosity ignited in their eyes. As the celebration comes to a close, you feel a deep sense of fulfillment. You've not only shared your passion for nature, but also inspired your classmates to appreciate the beauty of the environment and the importance of protecting it. The day has been filled with laughter, learning, and connection, and you can't help but feel grateful for the opportunity to share these experiences. Walking home that evening, you reflect on how far you've come since you first started your nature journal. You've discovered a love for exploration, a passion for learning, and the joy of sharing knowledge with others. You realize that your journey is just beginning, and you can't wait to see where it will lead you next. With a heart full of gratitude and excitement, you look forward to the adventures that await you, knowing that each new experience is an opportunity to learn, grow, and connect with the world around you. As winter settles in, the world around you transforms into a wonderland of frost and snow. The park, once vibrant with autumn colors, now glistens under a blanket of white. You find beauty in the stillness of the season, and your nature journal takes on a new focus as you document the changes in the landscape and the adaptations of wildlife during the colder months. One chilly afternoon, you decide to bundle up and head to the park to observe how animals cope with winter. You grab your journal, a thermos of hot cocoa, and your warmest coat, excited to explore the winter landscape. The air is crisp, and your breath forms little clouds as you walk, the crunch of snow beneath your boots echoing in the quiet surroundings. As you arrive at the park, you notice the stark beauty of the trees, their branches heavy with snow. You take a moment to appreciate the serene atmosphere before setting off on your exploration. You spot a group of birds flitting about, their feathers fluffed up against the cold. You pull out your journal and begin to sketch them, noting their behaviors and the way they search for food. Mainstream fact: many birds adapt to winter by changing their diets and finding shelter to stay warm. Quirky tidbit: some children would create bird feeders at home, learning about the importance of providing food for wildlife during harsh weather. As you continue your observations, you come across a small pond that has partially frozen over. You watch as a few ducks paddle around the edges, their quacking breaking the silence. You take a moment to sketch the scene, capturing the contrast of the dark water against the white ice. You jot down notes about how the ducks are likely finding food beneath the surface, and you marvel at their resilience. After spending some time by the pond, you decide to explore deeper into the park. You notice animal tracks in the snow and follow them, curious to see where they lead. You identify the prints as belonging to a rabbit, and you feel a thrill of excitement as you imagine the little creature hopping through the snow. You take notes in your journal, documenting the tracks and speculating about the rabbit's journey. As the afternoon wears on, you find a cozy spot under a large tree, its branches heavy with snow. You pull out your thermos and pour yourself a cup of hot cocoa, savoring the warmth as you reflect on your observations. You feel a sense of peace in the winter landscape, appreciating the beauty of nature even in its quietest moments. Inspired by the winter scenery, you decide to create a special section in your journal dedicated to winter wildlife. You sketch the animals you've observed, write about their adaptations, and include tips for how to help them during the colder months. You want to share this knowledge with your friends and classmates, encouraging them to appreciate the beauty of winter and the importance of caring for wildlife. As you head home that evening, your heart is full of gratitude for the day's experiences. You've discovered the wonders of winter and the resilience of nature, and you can't wait to share your findings with others. You feel a renewed sense of purpose, eager to inspire your friends to appreciate the beauty of the season and the importance of protecting the environment. The following week, you decide to host a Winter Wildlife Day at school, inviting your classmates to learn about the animals that thrive in winter and how they can help. You create a plan for the event, outlining activities such as presentations, art projects, and discussions about wildlife conservation. You're excited to share your passion for nature and inspire others to take action. On the day of the Winter Wildlife Day, the school is filled with excitement. Students gather in the auditorium, eager to learn about winter wildlife and the importance of conservation. You feel a sense of pride as you walk around, seeing the creativity and enthusiasm of your classmates on display. Mainstream fact: engaging students in environmental education fosters a sense of responsibility and connection to the natural world. Quirky tidbit: some students would create wildlife art, turning their observations into beautiful creations to share with others. When it's your turn to present, you share your journey of exploration through your winter observations, highlighting the adaptations of animals and the importance of caring for wildlife during the colder months. You encourage your classmates to think about how they can help, whether by creating bird feeders, planting native plants, or simply being mindful of their impact on the environment. As you finish your presentation, the audience applauds, and you feel a rush of warmth. You've not only shared your passion for winter wildlife, but also inspired your classmates to appreciate the beauty of the season and the importance of protecting the environment. The day is filled with laughter, learning, and connection. and you can't help but feel grateful for the opportunity to share these experiences. After the event, you gather with your friends, discussing the ideas that emerged during the presentations. You can see the spark of curiosity ignited in their eyes, and you feel a sense of fulfillment knowing that you've inspired them to appreciate the beauty of winter and the importance of conservation. As the winter months continue, you remain dedicated to your nature journal, documenting your observations and sharing your findings with others. You find joy in the small details, the way snowflakes dance in the air, the sound of ice cracking on the pond, and the sight of animals adapting to the cold. Each moment becomes a treasure, a reminder of the beauty of the natural world. Walking home one evening, you reflect on how far you've come since you first started your nature journal. You've discovered a love for exploration, a passion for learning, and the joy of sharing knowledge with others. You realize that your journey is just beginning, and you can't wait to see where it will lead you next. With a heart full of gratitude and excitement, you look forward to the adventures that await you, knowing that each new experience is an opportunity to learn, grow, and connect with the world around you. As winter melts into spring, you close your nature journal one final time, your fingers brushing its worn pages filled with sketches of frost-laced branches, animal tracks in snow, and the first brave flowers of March. The adventures you've documented have not only deepened your understanding of the natural world, but have also fostered a sense of responsibility to protect it. With the arrival of spring, the park transforms once again. The snow melts away, revealing vibrant colors and the sounds of birds returning from their migrations. You feel a renewed sense of excitement as you step outside, eager to explore the changes that spring brings. You decide to host a final event at school, a spring nature celebration. This time, you want to showcase not only your own journey, but also the experiences of your classmates. You invite everyone to share their nature journals, art, and observations, creating a space for collective learning and appreciation of the environment. On the day of the celebration, the school is filled with laughter and creativity. Students gather to share their findings, and the atmosphere is electric with enthusiasm. You feel a sense of pride as you walk around, seeing the diverse perspectives and experiences of your classmates on display. When it's your turn to present, you share your journey through the seasons, highlighting the beauty of nature and the importance of conservation. You encourage your classmates to continue exploring and observing the world around them, reminding them that every small action can make a difference in protecting the environment. As the celebration comes to a close, you feel a deep sense of fulfillment. You've not only shared your passion for nature, but also inspired your classmates to appreciate the beauty of the world and the importance of caring for it. The day is filled with laughter, learning, and connection, and you can't help but feel grateful for the opportunity to share these experiences. Walking home that evening, you reflect on how far you've come since you first started your nature journal. You've discovered a love for exploration, a passion for learning, and the joy of sharing knowledge with others. You realize that your journey is just beginning, and you can't wait to see where it will lead you next. As you settle into bed that night, you feel a sense of peace wash over you. The moonlight filters through your window, casting a soft glow in your room. You close your eyes, letting the day's adventures drift away like leaves on a gentle stream. Sleep now, you whisper to yourself, allowing the warmth of your memories to wrap around you like a cozy blanket. With each breath, you sink deeper into relaxation, knowing that tomorrow will bring new discoveries and opportunities to explore. And so, with your nature journal resting beside you and dreams of the natural world dancing in your mind, you drift off into a peaceful slumber, ready to embrace the adventures that await you in the morning.